A mom holding her baby in 1909. The reflection in the mirror reveals a mystery. The Chicago Historical Society receives hundreds of photographs each month from estate donations, but this particular sepia-toned image immediately catches the attention of Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the museum's senior archivist. The photograph shows a young mother in an elaborate Victorian dress holding her infant son in what appears to be a wealthy family's parlor. The brass nameplate identifies her as Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, photographed in Chicago during 1909. Eleanor's dark hair is perfectly styled in the Gibson girl fashion popular during that era. Her expression appears serene yet tired, displaying the exhaustion every new mother experiences. The baby, approximately 6 months old, gazes directly at the camera with unusual clarity for early 20th century photography. Behind them, an ornate mirror reflects the scene, while heavy curtains frame a window overlooking what appears to be Lakeshore Drive. Dr. Mitchell has catalogued thousands of historical photographs during her 15 years as an archivist, but something about this particular image demands closer examination. She reaches for her magnifying glass to study the composition in greater detail. The photographic quality is exceptional for 1909, clearly the work of a skilled professional photographer. As she focuses on the mirror's reflection, she notices something that makes her pause and look again more carefully. Through the magnifying glass, Dr. Mitchell examines the mirror's reflection with growing confusion. In the background of the reflected image, partially obscured by the parlor's doorway, stands a figure that appears to be a woman in dark clothing. However, this woman is not dressed in the elaborate Victorian fashion typical of 1909. Instead, she wears what appears to be simple, plain clothing more characteristic of working-class attire from that period. The figure's posture suggests she is deliberately trying to remain hidden, positioned just outside the main composition, but clearly visible in the mirror's reflection. Her clothing is notably different from the wealthy family's elaborate furnishings and Eleanor's expensive dress. Most intriguingly, the woman appears to be holding something in her hands, though the reflection makes it difficult to determine exactly what the object might be. Dr. Mitchell calls her colleague, Dr. James Crawford, the museum's photography expert, to examine the image. When he arrives, she wordlessly hands him the magnifying glass and points to the mirror's reflection. Crawford studies the image for several minutes, his expression growing increasingly puzzled as he focuses on the mysterious figure. The photograph's authentication documents confirm its genuine 1909 origin. The paper stock, photographic techniques, and chemical composition all verify the image's authenticity. There are no signs of tampering, double exposure, or later manipulation. Yet the presence of this additional person, seemingly trying to avoid detection, raises immediate questions about the circumstances surrounding this apparently simple family portrait. Dr. Crawford photographs the mysterious reflection using the museum's high-resolution equipment, isolating and enhancing the image to reveal greater detail. The enhanced version shows that the hidden woman appears to be older, possibly middle-aged, and is definitely holding a rectangular object that could be a book, letter, or small package. Dr. Mitchell begins researching the Whitmore family through Chicago city records from 1909. Eleanor Whitmore was indeed a real person, married to industrialist Thomas Whitmore, who owned several steel foundries throughout the city. They lived in a mansion on Lakeshore Drive, and city birth records confirm that Eleanor gave birth to their son, William, in March 1909, which aligns perfectly with the photograph's timing. The family's social standing in Chicago society was prominent. Thomas Whitmore was involved in various business ventures and served on several civic committees. Eleanor was active in women's charitable organizations and frequently hosted social gatherings for Chicago's elite families. Their wealth and status made them regular subjects of newspaper society pages during that era. However, Dr. Mitchell discovers something unusual in the city records. The Whitmore household employed only 3 domestic servants, according to official documentation: a cook, a housemaid, and a groundskeeper. None of the employment records describe a woman matching the appearance of the figure in the mirror's reflection. This discrepancy suggests that whoever was present during the photograph session was not part of the household's regular staff, raising questions about her identity and purpose for being there. The photographer's stamp on the back of the image identifies the artist as Frederick Ashford, a well-regarded portrait photographer who operated a studio in downtown Chicago during the early 1900s. Dr. Mitchell locates Ashford's business records in the Chicago Historical Society's archives, discovering that he maintained meticulous appointment books and client files. Ashford's records show that the Whitmore portrait session was scheduled for October 15, 1909, at the family's Lakeshore Drive mansion. The appointment notation includes an unusual detail: special session, extended time required, additional compensation agreed. This suggests that the photograph session was more complex or time-consuming than typical family portraits of that era. More intriguingly, Ashford's personal notes about the session, written in his characteristic careful handwriting, describe the shoot as challenging due to household circumstances. He mentions having to wait for private family matters to be resolved before beginning the photography work. The notes also reference unusual requests regarding positioning and background elements. The photographer's client payment records show that Thomas Whitmore paid significantly more than Ashford's standard rate for family portraits. The invoice includes an additional charge listed simply as discretionary services, which was not a typical line item in Ashford's other client files. These unusual financial arrangements suggest that the Whitmore family portrait involved circumstances beyond a standard family photography session, potentially explaining the presence of the mysterious woman in the mirror's reflection. Dr. Mitchell discovers Eleanor Whitmore's personal diary in the Chicago Public Library's historical manuscript collection, donated by the family decades after her death. The diary entries from October 1909 reveal a woman experiencing significant emotional distress during the period when the photograph was taken. Eleanor's writing describes ongoing tensions within the household, particularly concerning what she refers to as Thomas's obligations to his sister's memory. The entries reveal that Thomas had a sister, Margaret, who died in 1908, leaving behind a young daughter. Eleanor's diary suggests that there were complicated family discussions about the child's future care and custody arrangements. The most revealing entry, dated October 10, 1909, just 5 days before the photograph session, reads, "The woman arrived today as Thomas promised she would. She seems kind enough, though I confess I am not entirely comfortable with the arrangement. She insists on observing our daily routines, including little William's care, claiming it is necessary for her evaluation. I understand the legal requirements, but having a stranger scrutinize our family life feels intrusive." Eleanor's subsequent entries describe this woman as Miss Catherine Morrison, who appears to be some sort of social investigator or family court representative. Morrison was apparently conducting an assessment to determine whether the Whitmore family would be suitable guardians for Thomas's orphaned niece. Eleanor expresses anxiety about being judged as a mother and wife, particularly given the social expectations placed on wealthy Chicago families during that era. The diary reveals that Eleanor specifically requested that Miss Morrison not be visible in the family portrait, as she wanted the photograph to represent their immediate family unit rather than include evidence of the ongoing legal proceedings. Court records from Cook County reveal the full scope of the legal situation surrounding the Whitmore family in 1909. Margaret Whitmore Sullivan, Thomas's younger sister, died in a typhoid epidemic in 1908, leaving behind her 8-year-old daughter, Rose. Margaret's husband had died 2 years earlier, making Rose a complete orphan. The court appointed Miss Catherine Morrison, a trained social investigator, to evaluate potential guardian families for Rose. Thomas Whitmore had petitioned the court to become Rose's legal guardian, but the process required extensive evaluation of the family's suitability, financial stability, and emotional capacity to care for an additional child. Miss Morrison's official reports, filed with the Cook County Family Court, provide detailed observations of the Whitmore household during her October 1909 evaluation period. Her notes describe Eleanor as a devoted mother who demonstrates appropriate maternal instincts with her own infant son, but also mentions that Eleanor appeared somewhat overwhelmed by the prospect of caring for an additional child, particularly one who has experienced recent trauma. The reports reveal that Miss Morrison spent several days observing the family's daily routines, including mealtimes, childcare practices, and household management. Her presence during the photograph session was part of her comprehensive evaluation, as she wanted to document the family's presentation of themselves and their home environment. The mystery of the woman in the mirror is solved. Miss Catherine Morrison was deliberately positioned outside the main photograph composition at Eleanor's request, but her reflection was inadvertently captured in the ornate mirror. She was holding her official evaluation notebook, which explains the rectangular object visible in the enhanced image. The court records reveal the outcome of Miss Morrison's investigation and its impact on the Whitmore family. Her final report, submitted to Cook County Family Court in November 1909, recommended that Thomas and Eleanor Whitmore be approved as legal guardians for 8-year-old Rose Sullivan. Miss Morrison's evaluation praised Thomas's financial stability and Eleanor's maternal capabilities, but noted that Eleanor's initial reluctance appeared to stem from genuine concern about providing adequate attention to both children rather than any lack of compassion. The report recommended a trial guardianship period with regular follow-up evaluations to ensure Rose's successful integration into the family. Subsequent court documents show that Rose was placed with the Whitmore family in December 1909. City school records indicate that she was enrolled in the same private academy attended by other children from Chicago's wealthy families. Medical records show that she received proper health care and developed normally under the Whitmore's care. Chicago Newspaper Society, pages from 1910 and 1911, occasionally mention the Whitmore family's charitable work, including their support for orphaned children's causes. These references suggest that Rose's presence in their household may have inspired Eleanor to become more active in helping other children who had lost their parents. The 1920 federal census lists Rose Sullivan as a member of the Whitmore household, indicating that the guardianship arrangement was successful and long-term. By that time, she would have been 19 years old and still residing with the family that had raised her for over a decade. The Whitmore family's story continues through city records and newspaper archives well into the 1920s and beyond. Thomas's steel foundry business prospered during World War I, and the family maintained their prominent position in Chicago society. Eleanor became increasingly involved in children's welfare organizations, likely influenced by her experience with Rose's guardianship. William Whitmore, the baby in the 1909 photograph, grew up to attend Northwestern University, where he studied engineering. Newspaper announcements from 1932 describe his marriage to Mary Catherine Henderson, daughter of another prominent Chicago industrial family. The wedding announcement mentions that his adopted sister Rose served as one of the wedding organizers. Rose Sullivan, the orphaned girl whose custody evaluation led to Miss Morrison's presence during the photograph session, is listed in Chicago city directories through the 1940s. She worked as a teacher in the Chicago public school system and never married, dedicating her career to education. Her obituary in 1963 specifically mentions her gratitude to the Whitmore family, who provided her with love and opportunity after her parents' death. Eleanor Whitmore lived until 1945, passing away at age 78. Her obituary describes her decades of volunteer work with children's charities and notes that she was survived by her son William, her adopted daughter Rose, and several grandchildren. The obituary makes no mention of the circumstances that brought Rose into their family, suggesting that by then she was simply considered a full family member. The family's story demonstrates how a single photograph can capture a moment of transition and uncertainty that ultimately led to positive outcomes for everyone involved. Dr. Mitchell's research into Miss Catherine Morrison reveals a woman who was ahead of her time in the field of child welfare and family services. Born in 1875, Morrison was one of the first trained social investigators employed by Cook County Family Court, part of the Progressive era's efforts to professionalize child protection services. Morrison's personnel file, preserved in the Cook County Government Archives, shows that she conducted over 200 family evaluations during her career from 1905 to 1925. Her reports were known for their thoroughness and objectivity, and judges frequently relied on her recommendations for custody and guardianship decisions. Her evaluation methods were considered innovative for the time period. Rather than simply reviewing financial documents and conducting brief interviews, Morrison insisted on observing families in their natural daily routines. She believed that seeing how parents interacted with children during ordinary activities provided better insights than formal questioning sessions. The case files reveal that Morrison was particularly skilled at identifying families who had the emotional capacity to help traumatized children heal from their losses. Her success rate was remarkably high, with very few of her recommended placements requiring later intervention or removal. Morrison's career ended in 1925 when she married Dr. Robert Chen, a physician who worked with Chicago's immigrant communities. They moved to California, where she continued working with children's organizations on a volunteer basis. Her professional legacy influenced the development of modern social work practices, particularly in the area of family assessment and child placement. Her inadvertent appearance in the Whitmore family photograph serves as a reminder of the dedicated professionals who worked behind the scenes during the early 1900s to protect vulnerable children and create stable family environments. Dr. Sarah Mitchell carefully places the historical photograph back in its protective sleeve, her understanding of its significance forever changed. What initially appeared to be a simple family portrait has revealed itself to be documentation of a crucial moment in 3 lives. Eleanor learning to expand her maternal love, Rose finding a new family after tragic loss, and Miss Morrison performing the vital work of protecting orphaned children. The mystery in the mirror's reflection was not supernatural or impossible, but rather evidence of the complex human story unfolding behind the camera. Miss Morrison's presence represented the intersection of professional duty and personal compassion that characterized the progressive era's approach to social welfare. The photograph now takes its place in the Chicago Historical Society's collection with new significance. The museum's placard reads, "The Whitmore Family, 1909. This portrait was taken during legal proceedings to place an orphaned child with a loving family." The reflection in the mirror shows Miss Catherine Morrison, the social investigator, whose evaluation made the successful placement possible. Visitors to the museum can now understand that historical photographs often contain layers of meaning beyond their apparent subjects. The Whitmore family portrait captures not just a moment in time, but a pivotal point in the development of professional child welfare services and the expansion of family definitions beyond biological relationships. Dr. Mitchell reflects on how many historical images might contain similarly hidden stories waiting to be discovered through careful research and examination. The mystery in the mirror serves as a reminder that every photograph is a window into the complex human experiences of its era, preserving not just faces and places, but the social conditions and personal struggles that shaped people's lives.